See, every organism carry out certain type of metabolic activities in order to fulfill the need of or derivation of the energy in order to carry out the vital process of life. During that metabolic activities, one or the other type of the waste products will be generated. Means those products will be toxic to the body if they are accumulated in the body parts. So they have to be continuously eliminated outside the body in order to maintain the constant osmotic pressure and get rid of those the toxic wastes. And it can be achieved by the presence of a specialized system that is called as a excretory system, right? So can I get the list of excretory products then? So what are the excretory waste? Are the waste products which are produced during metabolic process. During metabolic processes. Yes, what are those waste products? Means, as you said now, okay, those are, it may be the urea, right? Next, it may be converted into uric acid, or it may be ammonia, right? Or it may be carbon dioxide. Only these things. Even the ions also. Say for example, potassium ions, sodium ions, okay. Okay, it may be the calcium, right? And then sulfate, it may be sulfate ions also, like that. So these are the waste products which will be accumulated in the body if not excreted outside, and they become turn or become toxic to the body, right? They need to be eliminated. So they need to be eliminated. They need to be eliminated from the body. Otherwise they become toxic. Otherwise they become toxic to the body, right? And it necessitates or it requires an efficient system to ensure their elimination. That is only called as a excretory system, right? And with respect to these waste products elimination, why they need to be eliminated? Means the one reason is otherwise they will become toxic. And one more reason is that one, if they retain in the body, means they will cause imbalance or alter the osmotic pressure of that individual, right? So with respect to that osmotic pressure or osmotic balance, let's discuss in detail regarding the osmotic balance of the osmotic pressure now. Because we know that one, excretory organs or the excretory structures will be involved in not only in the excretion of the waste products, but also they help in the regulation of osmotic pressure, that is osmoregulation. So with respect to that osmotic pressure or osmotic regulation, so with respect to osmotic balance or osmotic pressure, or for the maintenance of that osmotic pressure, organisms or the animals, with respect to this one, organisms are of two types. Organisms are of two types. What are those two types of organisms? Anyone? Yes, exactly. Those are osmoregulators and then the osmoconformers. So what do you mean by osmoconformers and what do you mean by osmoregulators? Osmoconformers is the one category. Next is osmoregulators. If you take the human being as an example, which category belongs to? Osmoconformers or the osmoregulators? Osmoregulators. Why they belong to osmoregulators? Like for example, cold-blooded organisms and then the warm-blooded organisms, we are much aware about them, right? Since our school level also, right? So we know what cold-blooded organisms and then what warm-blooded organisms means. Cold-blooded means They don't have. Yes. Their body temperature changes according to the changes in the surrounding temperature. Means they don't have any control over their body temperature. But warm-blooded organisms means they will maintain the constant internal environment, that is with respect to the osmotic pressure as well as the body temperature. Whatever the outer temperature is, body temperature will be, or internal body temperature will be constant. So they are called as their thermoregulators. Like that here, if the organisms maintain an internal constant osmotic pressure irrespective of changes in the surrounding environment, then those are called as osmoregulators. And here osmoconformers means those organisms which are not able to maintain the internal constant osmotic pressure or the balance, but their osmotic balance or the pressure changes according to the changes in the surrounding environment. So those are called as osmoconformers. So in these organisms, the body osmotic pressure changes according to, so it changes according to the changes in surrounding environment or in the surroundings. Such organisms are called as osmoconformers. Means they are not able to regulate their osmotic pressure, but their osmotic pressure in the body changes according to the changes in the surrounding environment or osmolarity of the surrounding environment. They are called as osmoconformers. Can you give a very good example for the osmoconformers? Invertebrates. Even vertebrates are also there. Yes, invertebrates are the most common one, right? But among vertebrates, any example is there which comes under the osmoconformers? Exactly correct. What is that one? Is hagfish. What is the other name given for that hagfish? Yes, example is a hagfish, or it is also called as Medsine, which belongs to cyclostomes, right? Which category of fishes it belongs to? Cyclostomes, right? Okay. Next is osmoregulators. What do you mean by osmoregulators? Here, these are the organisms, can maintain constant internal osmotic pressure irrespective of changes in its surrounding. Such organisms comes under osmoregulators. Okay, so most of the higher organisms are the mammals, so they are the osmoregulators only here. Okay, among the higher organisms, vertebrates, which are the exception for these osmoregulators? So here, most of the vertebrates are the osmoregulators only, right? Which are the exceptions for this osmoregulation here? Means one is, what is that one? Hagfish is there. Hagfish. Like that, one more is also there. That is shark as well as the rays. Like stingray and electric rays are there, right? Yes, torpedo and then the trigon. Okay, those ray fishes as well as shark. So these are the exceptions. Okay, except those remaining vertebrates are the osmoregulators only. Is it clear? Any doubt in osmoconformers and osmoregulators? Okay. So with respect to this osmolarity or the osmoregulation, okay, how the osmoregulation will be carried out in the fresh water as well as the sea water, and what type of challenges will be faced by these organisms which live in the fresh water as well as the marine water. Let's discuss about in detail. Before that, make a note of these points. Will be the osmolarity in fresh water as well as the Salt water, right? Yes, what is the osmotic the osmotic pressure in the fresh water or osmolarity of the fresh water? 50 milliosmos per liter. What about in case of salt water or the marine water? 1000 milliosmos per liter, right? Okay, so let's discuss first regarding osmotic regulation or osmoregulation in organisms which live in fresh water, So osmotic balance should be maintained if the organism belongs to the osmoregulators, right? Say for example here, this is what the aquatic environment, so where the fresh water is present, and this fresh water osmotic balance or the osmotic pressure is 50 milliosmos per liter, right? 50 milliosmos per liter. But the organism which lives in that one is organism, here the average osmolarity of that organism living in it, it will be 200 to 300 milliosmos per liter, right? So with respect to the osmolarity, this organism is living in hypotonic medium or the hypertonic medium? The surrounding environment is hypotonic, right? But the osmotic pressure or the body fluid present in that organism is hypertonic. What happens when an hypertonic organism is kept in hypotonic solution or the hypotonic medium? So here, swell. Why? So osmotic pressure of fresh water is 50 milliosmos per liter, and the organism is 200 to 300 milliosmos per liter, right? So organism, so the body fluids of organism in that fresh water is hypertonic. He is hypertonic to surrounding water. What happens when the body of an organism is hypertonic to the surrounding water means where the salt concentration is more in that organism. In that organism, salt concentration is more, but salt concentration is less in case of surrounding water. So how the movement of these salts takes place from the region of its higher concentration to the region of lower concentration? So the salts tend to move out of the organism body into the surrounding medium. So what are the problems faced by such organisms or the such animals? Yes, what are the challenges or the problems faced by such organisms in the fresh water? Means the first one is, what is that one? Loss of body salts. Body salts will be lost into the surrounding environment, right? That is the one problem it has to face. The second one is, yes, salt concentration is more. It is a hypertonic solution. The body fluids are representing hypertonic solution. Surrounding water is hypertonic. So water tend to move in, right? That is end osmosis takes place when a hypertonic solution is kept in the hypotonic one. End osmosis takes place. Because of that, for example, if you place resins in the hypotonic solution, what happens? Those resins will swell up. What do you mean by resin? Ona drakshi anta kaitar, dry. Okay, drakshi iruttalla. Adu neeರಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೈನ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಅದು ಸ್ವೆಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ end osmosis. Okay, and that is a very good example for the imbibition also, I think, right? So that is what going to happen here means the water from the surrounding environment tend to enter into the body, and the salts from the body will tend to move out of body into the surrounding environment. As a result, what happens? Loss of body salts takes place, and excess intake of water occurs. These are the two problems the organisms will face when they live in the fresh water with the osmolarity 50 milliosmos per liter. So clear? Any doubt in this one? Then how it will maintain if it is a osmoregulator, means how it will face the challenges. Yes, what it can do in order to minimize the loss of body salts and in order to prevent increase in the water concentration in its body fluid.
It maintain the solution.
Adaptations. What adaptations will be present then? So what will be the adaptations present in that organism? So in order to carry out osmoregulation, what adaptation that organism should have? Very good. Okay. If the organism need to minimize the loss of or prevent the loss of salts and prevent the excess gain of the water, what happens? The organism should be provided with or should possess, what is that one? Presence of scutes or the scales and skin, right? The presence of scutes or the scales and the skin which prevent the unnecessary entry of water and loss of salt from the body fluid, right? So the presence of these scutes or the scales prevent the transport of water from outer environment to the internal inside the body, and loss of salt from the body into the outer water. Next, other than that one, need to expel more amount of water. Means as it is present in the water environment, if the water enters inside the body continuously by endosmosis, means need to expel more water. And the next one is, so by this it can minimize the water concentration in its body fluids by giving out extra amount of water than the usual or than the normal one. Other than that one, what about the salts here? It should minimize the loss of salts, or if the salt is lost, means it should compensate, right? To compensate the loss of salts, it must take the salts present in the surrounding water. Must take salts from surrounding water. And this uptake of the salt from the surrounding water is an energy expense process, so it is an active process only. So this is an active process. This one is active process. So active process means there will be expense of the energy. Then what is the salt concentration in surrounding water and what is the salt concentration in that organism body? So salt concentration in the surrounding water is, say for example, it should take the sodium chloride from the surrounding water. That is, so concentration of sodium chloride in water, surrounding water, is just 1 millimolar. But in body, but in body fluid it is 100 millimolar. 100 millimolar. So where its concentration is more?
In body.
In the body fluids of organism. It's already 100 millimolar is present, but in surrounding water only 1 millimolar. So as some salts will be lost from the body, to compensate that loss, it must take some amount of salt from the outer environment or the surrounding water, and that uptake of the salt is an energy expensive one. So it is the active process. So by active process, it must take up the salts which are present in the surrounding water. By this ways, it can achieve the osmoregulation. And the cells which are involved in the uptake of salt from the outer environment. Okay, which cell will be involved here means, so this one takes place with the help of specialized cells called as chloride cells. These chloride cells are also called as ionocytes. So this active uptake of the salt from the surrounding water will take place by specialized cells present in its body called as ionocytes or the chloride cells. Understood? So this is how the organisms which live in the fresh water can achieve the osmoregulation with these modifications or the adaptations. So what will be the osmolarity of marine water or the sea water? Yes, osmolarity in the sea water is 1000 milliosmos per liter. This is what the osmolarity of salt water or the sea water. And the human body fluids osmolarity is, yes, what will be the osmolarity present in our body fluids? Yes, 200 to 300 milliosmos per liter. So with respect to this osmolarity, say for example, if the human being or the other vertebrates are living in that salt water means. So this is what the sea water is, 1000 milliosmos per liter. Say for example, here lives the fish. Okay, and in this fish the osmolarity, so consider this one as a bony fish. Okay, this is an bony fish. In this fish, its osmolarity is just 200 to 300 milliosmos per liter. What about the salt water? It is 1000 milliosmos per liter. Okay. So what happens to the salts present in the tissue, bony fish and then the surrounding water? Where the salt concentration is? Salt concentration is more in the surrounding water than the body fluids. As a result, what happens? The salts will enter from outer environment of the surrounding water into the body fluids of that organism. Right? So what happens here? So what are the challenges or the problems faced in sea water. The first one is, what is that one? The entry of excess salts into body. In previous one, in fresh water, loss of salt was taking place, right? But here, entry of excess salts into the body fluids takes place. Yes, other than that one, here where the water content is more,
In your body.
in body fluids, water concentration is more than that of the surrounding water. In surrounding water, salt concentration is more, right? But in body fluids, water concentration is more than the salts. So that water tend to move out. Water tend to move out from the region of its higher concentration to the region of its lower concentration. So as a result, what happens? A loss of excess water from body takes place. So what are all the modifications or the adaptations will be present in that such organism? Yes, exosmosis takes place. Exosmosis of the water takes place here. So water from the region of higher concentration, means body fluids, will move out into the region of lower concentration, that is surrounding salt water. So it tend to lose the body water. So what are the adaptations present here? Means need to drink more water from the surrounding environment. But problem is that surrounding water contains more amount of salts in it.
So it has to lose less water from.
Adaptation one is, in order to minimize or compensate the water loss, need to drink more water from surrounding, right? But the surrounding water is full of salts in it, right? Yes, how this problem can be solved here? So when you drink more water, when you take more water through the gills, so bony fishes, means fishes are having gills, right, as a respiratory organ. Through that gills only water will enter into the body, so that they never drink the water through the mouth. You will not drink the water through mouth. Water enters through gills. In that gills, there will be a presence of what that cells? Chloride cells or the ionocytes will be present. Chloride cells, all the ionocytes will be present. But as the water contains more salt, ionocytes are chloride cells. Ionocytes are the chloride cells in gills. Split the ions in salts into for example into the mono ions which will be eliminated outside the body through the gills only. Mono ions which will be eliminated through gills only, and remaining ions produced will be eliminated through excretory waste. Mono ions and then remaining ions eliminated through excretory waste. Here excretory waste is nothing but the fecal matter. So in that way, the excess salt or the ions which enter into the body through that water, that will be eliminated outside the body by means of gills and as well as excretory waste. So that even if we drink the water also, those salts will be eliminated out through excretory waste as well as through the gills. So this is what the adaptation that will be present in the bony fishes. Any doubt in this one? So these are the adaptations which are present in such organisms which live in the marine water or the salt water. Any doubts in this one? Okay. So, so exceptions, as we said, shark, right? So in case of shark and rays, what happens? The body fluid is isotonic to surrounding water. Isotonic to surrounding water. Right? So in order to maintain osmotic gradient or to increase the osmotic pressure in the body fluid, what changes it may adopt? So in order to prevent osmoregulatory problems, these organisms accumulate organic substances, certain organic substances in body. Those organic substances which will be accumulated in the body are called as osmolytes. Those are called as osmolytes. Such substances are called as osmolyte, which will increase the osmolarity of the body fluid. Okay. Which increases accumulation of these organic substances, that increases what is that one? Body osmotic pressure. So what those osmolytes are? What are the examples of these osmolytes? Here the example is nothing but here urea is one osmolyte. Means urea will be accumulated in the body tissues itself. Along with that one more is, what is that? The TMAO. What is the full form of TMAO? Yes, trimethyl amine oxide. Right. So they will be accumulated in the body in order to achieve or maintain high osmolarity than that of the surrounding water, in order to prevent osmoregulatory related problems, so that the exchange of the ions or the other substances can easily achieved by maintaining the osmotic gradient. Okay, so remember these osmolytes are very important for the aspect of NEET examination. Okay, so what TMAO refers to is an osmolyte. Okay, in which organism they can be accumulated? So in shark and then the rays are the organisms which are isotonic to the surrounding water. So I think you won't forget this TMAO, right? Good. So among the terrestrial organisms, let's take the example of humans. Monkey is related to human being only. We all are primates only, right? So in humans, what happens? Reduce in the water content by 12% causes death. So ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಡೆತ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂದರೆ 12% ರೆಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ವಾಟರ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ನೇ ತಗೊಂಡು ಡೈಲಿ ಕುಡಿಬೇಕು. ಏನು ಕುಡಿಬೇಕು? ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ ವಾಟರ್. ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ವಾಟ್ರೇ ಬೇಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಲ್ಕೋಹಾಲ್ ಕಾಸಸ್ ಡಿಹೈಡ್ರೇಷನ್, ರೈಟ್? Alcohol intake of alcohol leads to frequent urination. That leads to water loss only, right? So it causes death. ಸೊ ಫ್ರೂಟಿನೂ ಕುಡಿಬೋದು, ಫ್ರೂಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟರ ಹತ್ರನೂ ನೀರು ಇಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕುಡಿಬೋದು, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಸೊ ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು, ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು. ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ ಮೋರ್ ವಾಟರ್. ಓಕೆ, ವಿ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರಿಂಕ್ ಮೋರ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈಟ್ yes moist food and okay fruits with more water content. Okay, fruits are juicy fruits, those fruits which are juicy in nature. If not juicy, make a juice and drink it, right? Is it clear? Zayad, if you want alcohol content also with more amount of water, take grape juice then, right? Black grape juice, equal to wine only, right? Yes. So anyhow, we must take more amount of water or compensate the water loss, okay, in order to prevent dehydration which leads to the death. This is how osmolarity or the osmoregulation related problems can be solved, by drinking more amount of water and eating the food, moist food, as well as the fruits with more water content. What about in case of certain organisms which live in the conditions which are xeric conditions? What about xeric organisms? Yes, but in xeric animal, what do you mean by xeric animals? Yes, which lives in the xeric conditions, right? That is where there is a scarcity of the water, right? Example of the xeric animal, if you take, yes, what is the rat? Kangaroo rat, right? Kangaroo rat. Yes, as it lives in the desert and as well as that is xeric condition, there will be a scarcity of the water. Okay, how it compensates, how it meets the water requirement in its body? Yes, it means it will never produce the urine, it will never urinate, and whatever the water is produced as a byproduct of the metabolic pathways, that will be utilized by the body. Okay, it uses the water produced in metabolic reactions and it do not urinate and accumulate okay the urea in its body only, in its body. Is it clear? Or if it produces means very concentrated form of urine will be released in order to retain the more amount of water in its body, right? Is it clear? That is what the adaptation present in the kangaroo rat. I think you will get this information again when we discuss regarding the organisms and populations, right? Okay. So one example of the xeric animal which maintains the osmoregulation is kangaroo rat in xeric conditions. And what about the another animal, that is in case of camel? What about camel? It also lives in the xeric condition only, right? Desert? Yes. What will be the mechanism present or the adaptation present in that camel? It stores. First, it utilizes the water produced as a metabolic byproduct during the scarcity of water. Whenever the water is available, it will rehydrate its body by drinking more amount of water. Yes, by drinking more amount of water and stores it in its hump, right? How much water will be taken in by that camel in 10 minutes? How much water you can drink in 10 minutes? More than 100 liters. You can drink more than 100 liters. 15. See, it drinks more than 80 liters of water in 1 minute. More than 80 liters of water. Not 1 minute, 10 minutes. In 10 minutes. In 10 minutes. In 10. 10 minutes. So camel, okay, it uses the water produced by the fat metabolism. So in fat metabolism, the water produced as a byproduct will be utilized for its water requirements, and whenever the water is available, rehydrate the body by drinking more water, that is 80 liters in 10 minutes. It can drink 80 liters of water in 10 minutes, and it stores that water in its hump. Okay, so this is how the challenges which will be faced by the terrestrial organisms also in order to maintain the osmoregulation, and these are the adaptations present in the other organisms in order to maintain the osmoregulation. So let's end the discussion regarding the osmoregulation in the osmoconformers here. Let's discuss regarding the type of, or which are the three main type of excretory products will be produced in the metabolic pathways, and based on the type of excretory waste eliminated, what those organisms are categorized as. So let's see what is excretion now. Yes, what do you mean by excretion? What is excretion? So excretion is nothing but the partial or the total elimination or removal of nitrogenous waste from the body. Such a process is called as excretion, right? So here it mainly involves either partial excretion or the elimination of such nitrogenous waste, or total elimination or the removal of the nitrogenous waste produced during metabolic activities. Okay, three main type of nitrogenous waste are What are those three main type of nitrogenous waste produced? So those waste are, one is ammonia, next is urea and uric acid. Among these three main type of nitrogenous waste produced, ammonia is highly toxic, right? It is highly toxic. Urea is less toxic than ammonia, and more toxic than uric acid. What about the uric acid? This is the least toxic. So with respect to the toxicity, if we arrange them in an order, means with respect to the toxicity. So with respect to toxicity, nitrogenous waste in ascending order will be, yes, what will be ascending order now? Ammonia is being highly toxic, right? The first one will be ammonia, then is urea, then is uric acid, right? Ammonia is more toxic, Urea is less toxic than ammonia, and uric acid is the least toxic than urea and ammonia. Remember this order, ascending order, descending order, you can write. This is what the ascending order or descending order? This is descending order, right? Ascending means?
Same. Correct.
Correct idena?
Descending order.
This is descending order, right? Ascending order means?
Same.
Okay, same only, okay.
Ammonia if we write.
For example, so if we write arrow marks here means this will be the ascending order. If arrow marks are like this means this will be the descending order. Okay, so this is what the order of toxic means nitrogenous waste with respect to their toxicity. As ammonia is being highly toxic one requires more quantity of water for its elimination. So this ammonia requires more amount of water, for its elimination. And what about uric acid? It requires
Less amount of water.
Yes, requires a least amount of water for its removal. Is it clear? And urea requires moderate quantity of water for its removal. So the ammonia will be excreted as a nitrogenous waste in aquatic organisms. Why? Because the more water is available in their surrounding, okay, so because of the more availability of the water, they can excrete the waste in ammonia form only. Directly they can excrete it in the form of ammonia only. But in other organisms where there is a scarcity of water or limited availability of the water, ammonia must be converted into less toxic first, then will be eliminated outside the body by utilization of less amount of water. Okay. So, what are the three types of organisms based on the type of nitrogenous waste excreted by them means if they are excreting the nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia, they will be called as ammonotelic organisms. If urea, ureotelic. If uric acid, uricotelic organisms, right? Okay, let's see those three types of organisms and their examples now. So, organisms are of three types. So, organisms are of three types based on type of nitrogenous waste excreted by them. Based on type of nitrogenous waste excreted by them. In that, the first one will be what these organisms are? Ammonotelic organisms. So, which organisms are called as ammonotelic means here? Organisms which excrete nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia. These ammonotelic organisms excrete nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia. Such organisms are called as ammonotelic organisms, and such a process or the phenomena is called as ammonotelism. Right? Excrete nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia. Such a process or such a phenomena is called ammonotelism. Example of organisms with the ammonotelism. Yes, what are the examples of organisms? Here, okay, the aquatic amphibia. Next, aquatic insects. Yes, which fishes? Bony fishes. Okay, next, other than that one, freshwater fish also. Even freshwater fishes, they will also excrete ammonia only. Okay, so these are the organisms which excrete the nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia. Other than these, lower level of organisms, say for example sponges, right, are the porifera. Next, coelenterids, coelenterata. Okay, next, cnidarians. They are only coelenterids, right? Cnidarians means ctenophores. Okay, ctenophores. Okay, next, mollusk. Mollusk is echinoderms. Echinoderms are also there, right? Yes. So these are the various examples which excrete the nitrogenous waste in the form of ammonia. Okay, no need of conversion of the metabolic waste here. Directly it can be eliminated outside the body in original form itself, because as they are surrounded by the more amount of water, there will be more availability of the water to eliminate these highly toxic ammonia. Is it clear? Any doubt in this one? Okay. So that is regarding the ammonotelic organisms. The next one is ureotelic organisms. Ureotelic organisms. Yes. What do you mean by ureotelic organisms now? Here the excretory waste will be urea. Okay. So excretory waste will be. So excretory waste is actually nitrogenous waste produced was ammonia only, but excreted in the form of yes, excretory waste is excreted in the form of urea. Means here the ammonia get converted into urea, where in which organ? In liver. Okay, by means of an metabolic pathway, what is called as ornithine cycle. So in these organisms, okay, highly toxic ammonia get converted into, so which get converted into urea by which cycle? Ornithine cycle. Okay. So what are the examples of organisms which possess such ureotelic or ureotelism? Examples, can you give the example of organisms right now here? Okay. Here aquatic amphibia we have written for the ammonotelic, right? The remaining terrestrial amphibians. Next, terrestrial amphibia. Next, other than that one, insects. No, the insects are uricotelic. Okay. Yes, mammals we can take, right? Mammals. L bitbiಟ್ರೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಾಮಾಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ. Okay. Mammals. Next. ಬೇಡ. Mama also comes under mammal only. Next is ಇಷ್ಟನಾ? Here bony fishes we have written, right? Here cartilaginous fishes.
So they also live in aquatic.
Even though they are aquatic, they are ureotelic in nature. Cartilaginous fishes and marine fishes. Marine fish. Other than that one here, aquatic reptiles. Snakes. aquatic reptile. Example of aquatic reptile like yes, crocodile, turtles. In that particular category of the turtles which are called as terrapins. Okay, so instead of turtle they can also give terrapins. These terrapins also particular category of that turtles only. So terrapins, turtles and crocodile which belongs to the reptiles, those are aquatic in nature. So aquatic reptiles, marine fishes, cartilaginous fishes, mammals and terrestrial amphibia, these are the examples of ureotelic organisms. In these organisms, the highly toxic ammonia get converted into less toxic urea by ornithine cycle. Okay, let's discuss about that ornithine cycle, how ammonia get converted into urea now. Where the ornithine cycle operates? In liver only. Which parts of the liver? Which in liver cells? It is hepatic cells only are called as liver cells. Okay, in that particularly in cytosol and then the mitochondria. Okay, it's a joint venture of the cytosol as well as mitochondria. Between these only, so there operates a cycle at the metabolic pathway called as ornithine cycle. Let's discuss about that cycle in detail now. Before that, note these points. So ornithine cycle is also called as, what it is called as? Yes, Krebs-Hanslitt cycle. Okay, base means it is named on the name of a discoverer of it. Okay. Okay, this cycle operates in cytosol and mitochondria of liver cells, nothing but cytoplasm. Okay, so cytosol and then the mitochondria of liver cells. Zahid, pronounce it. Correct? Last year I think ನಾನು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಇದ್ದ ಮೈಟೋಕಾಂಡ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಕ್ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅವನು ಮೈತೊಕೊಂಡ್ರ ಹ್ಞೂ ಅಂತ ರೈಟ್. ಎಸ್ ಎಸ್, ಅವನು ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಹಾಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಸೊ ಮೈಟೋಕಾಂಡ್ರಿಯಾ ಓನ್ಲಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಓಕೆ, ಎಸ್. Yes, let's draw that cycle now here. Ornithine citrulline arginiosaxonic acid, next arginine, so carbon dioxide along with the ammonia which get converted into carbamyl phosphate by means of enzyme called as carbamyl phosphate synthetase. Okay, this requires the expense of 2 ATP which will be converted into 2 ADP plus inorganic phosphate. So this carbamyl phosphate combines with ornithine. Then it gives rise to the formation of citrulline. This citrulline then it combines with the second molecule of ammonia. The first molecule of ammonia combines with the carbon dioxide and gives carbamyl phosphate. This carbonyl phosphate, it combines with the ornithine and forms citrulline. Then this citrulline combines with the another molecule of ammonia, which already got converted into aspartate. So conversion of the ammonia into aspartate, that takes place in cytosol. This takes place in the cytosol or cytolin. That's why I said, okay, it operates in the cytoplasm or the cytosol as well as the mitochondria. Conversion of this carbon dioxide and ammonia into the carbonyl phosphate, this operates in the mitochondria. And conversion of ammonia
into aspartate.
Okay, ammonia from the amino acids in that amine group will be converted into aspartate. Okay, this aspartate combines with the citrulline. It combines with the citrulline. Yes, and here also the utilization of 2 ATPs will take place, but instead of the formation of the production of what is that one? ADP, here AMP will be released. What do you mean by AMP here? Yes, adenosine monophosphate with the release of phosphate and then the inorganic phosphate. Okay, next arginosuccinic acid will be synthesized from the citrulline and then the aspartate with the help of what is it? Arginosuccinic acid synthetase enzyme. Arginosuccinic acid synthetase enzyme. Then from this arginosuccinic acid, fumarate will be released out as a byproduct. Fumarate will be released out as a byproduct and forms the main product, which is called as arginine here. And this one takes place with the help of arginosuccinic acid lyase. Arginosuccinic acid lyase. So this one takes place with the help of arginosuccinic acid lyase enzyme that converts arginosuccinic acid into arginine. Now L-aspartate. What do you mean by L? What do you mean by L there? Levorotatory and dextrorotatory. So in chemistry you will come across the forms of the biomolecules, right? Which one? This citrulline combines with the aspartate in the presence of arginosuccinic acid synthetase. By these two, or by the combination of citrulline and then the aspartate, arginosuccinic acid will be formed. And with the help of one more enzyme, arginosuccinic acid lyase, then arginine will be produced by the removal of what is that one? Fumarate. Then this arginine combines with a molecule of water, and combination of this water and then the arginine produces an end product, what is called as urea. That produces urea. What is that one? Here you can write down. Synthetase. So here, when arginine combines with the water, then it gets converted into two products. What are this? One is urea, another one is ornithine. So ornithine, it again continues with the ornithine cycle. That is ornithine, which is formed as a byproduct of this metabolic pathway. Main product is urea. The byproduct is ornithine. This ornithine is ready to combine with one more molecule of carbonyl phosphate and continues the ornithine cycle. So that's why this cycle is called as ornithine cycle. No byproduct will enter again into this the formation of urea from the ammonia, but ornithine combines with the carbonyl phosphate to continue this cycle. So the cycle is named as ornithine cycle. And where it operates? It operates in the cytosol and in the mitochondria. From the cytosol, which combines with the citrulline? L-aspartate. From the mitochondria, what combines with the citrulline? Carbonyl phosphate. Is it clear? So this is how the urea will be synthesized, or urea will be produced as the excrete nitrogenous waste. That is, the highly toxic ammonia get converted into less toxic urea. Okay, so by this ornithine cycle, and which operates in the liver cells, particularly in cytosol and mitochondria of liver cells. Any doubt in this cycle? Make a note of it. Yes, next type of organisms based on the type of nitrogenous waste excreted are uricotelic organisms. Uricotelic organisms. As their name itself indicates here that they are going to excrete the nitrogenous waste in the form of uric acid. So they excrete nitrogenous waste. They excrete nitrogenous waste in the form of what is that one? Uric acid, right? So such organisms are called as uricotelic organisms. Example of such uricotelic organisms? Yes. Examples? Yes. Insects. Next. Birds. Very good. Cockroach comes under insects only, right? Okay. Next. Other than that one? Land snails. Yes. Any other? And reptiles. Okay, so these are the uricotelic. Land reptiles, terrestrial reptiles. Aquatic reptiles, they are ureotelic nature, right? So uricotelic is the land reptiles are the terrestrial reptiles. Any doubt in this one? Okay. What about in case of the exception, that is among the insect, cockroach? In some organisms, what happens here, uric acids will not be excreted out, it will be retained in the body cells in the form of uric acid crystals, right? There is the presence of particular cells in which uric acid will be stored throughout their lifetime without excreting out. I think in structural organization in organisms, when we study particularly about the cockroaches, so among the discussion regarding the excretory system of the cockroach, we will discuss the presence of certain type of cells, what those are called as urate cells. They store uric acid crystals in them. See, excretory structures of the cockroach are Malpighian tubules are the main one, right? Malpighian tubules are there, right? So along with that one, urate cells are the urate glands will be present where there will be a storage of uric acid crystals will take place. But majorly the insects, birds and land snails, reptiles excrete the nitrogenous waste in the form of uric acid only. So they are called as uricotelic organisms. Any doubt in this one? Okay. So in previously we have discussed regarding camel also, right? The camel. The camel is an ureotelic or the uricotelic? Why uricotelic?
Sir, less
Mammal only, no?
Sir, water.
Okay, even though it lives in the desert and where there is a scarcity of water, it is ureotelic only. But that urea will be stored in its body cells during the scarcity of the water. And whenever the water is available, it will rehydrate its body. Okay, so the camel is have a special adaptation to retain some amount of urea in their body itself without excreting it. Okay, so these things are enough for today's class. The remaining thing we are going to discuss in the next class. Thank you.